Hey everybody, it's Ty Fisher with Rebuku. Welcome back to the podcast. Today I have a good client and great friend and longtime friend. Gosh, how long have we known each other, Kimberly?
It's been a
Probably
while.
10 years, at least 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kimberly Melloan. Kimberly, I would love for you to give us a little background, your years in business, where you're located, what you specialize in, and a little bit about that. I'd love to hear about that.
Okay. So I started off in taking action shots of my son. I was the mom with the camera
Okay.
in 2008 when he was about 8 years old. Well, before that, really, I played. I was always taking pictures of my babies. I have three boys, and the pictures were always blurry. So my husband went off and bought a nice camera and an even better lens because he did all the research. I was like, we want to spend our money on the lens, not the camera. So he had fixed me up real nice, and I took the time and got books and learned, the triangle and all the things. And it took a long time to do that all by myself. Lots
Yeah.
of tears and frustration. And in 2008, when Joshua was 8 years old, I went around the ballpark and did collages of all the kids there. There was another girl that was kind of the same as me, the mom with the camera. We kind of teamed up together and started doing these 20 by 30 collages. And looking back on those now, it's really hilarious because nothing was blended correctly. And, we're just kind of fumbling through Photoshop trying to figure it out. And it's really funny, but come a long way for sure. So I guess about 2016, maybe, David Grupa had his little Camp Grupa page on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I stumbled across that, and I was asking him all these questions. I saw his team and individual set up. And so I sent him this paragraph, this big, how do you do this? Well, how'd you do that? Blah, blah, blah. And he was like, why don't you come to Sync? And I was like, or Sync Sports. I was like, what is Sync Sports? I've never heard of that. I didn't know there was conferences. Are you kidding me? I would have been there a long time ago. So it was like the next week is when, it was next week. He's like, come, it's next week. It's in Pennsylvania, this place called Spooky Nook. And I was like, all right. So that's something totally out of my comfort zone. I don't like to do things alone. And I talked to my husband about it. He was like, yeah, go for it. If you want to do it, go ahead. I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. So I flew out there by myself. Loved everything about it. Met the greatest friends I've ever met in my life there. And we still are all talking to each other today. And came home from that conference and booked 3 little leagues. And really, I had done some teams before, football and some of my son's baseball teams. But the most teams that we did at one time was probably this football league of about 4 teams, Mighty Mites, Pee-wees, juniors, seniors, and their cheerleaders. And that was the most I had ever done at one time. And, I did it in the middle of the day on the football field. It was 1,000 degrees outside, bright sun, and everything worked out somehow. I don't know how, but it worked out. I composited those, I made the memory mate myself. I kind of brought let's get rid of that cardboard thing that you put the pictures in. I feel like I kind of brought that to my area because every time before that, it was all the cardboard thing. And I'd take my pictures out of that and throw the cardboard things away.
Yeah.
And I found templates on, it was called Easy Digitals, I think.
Okay.
I think that Kim Kunkel lady.
Yeah.
Design now.
Yes, I remember Kim quite well.
Yeah, so I was getting stuff off of her page and started doing the, print the 8x10, and it was the memory mate. Well, so for those football leagues, I was manually cutting out those kids on Photoshop. And Joel, my husband, was always like, you need to outsource that. I'm like, how in the world do you outsource that? I have no idea how to do that. Like, who does that?
Yeah.
And then came to that conference and realized that was actually a thing. And so from then on, I began outsourcing when I started doing those leagues. Oh, and I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, by the way. I forgot to say that.
Yeah, Louisville, Kentucky. You really started out the gate in sports then, right?
Yeah, sports was my main thing. Now, I've moved and evolved since then, but sports was my main thing. Yep.
Yeah, and so I met you at Spooky Nook. I remember this as well.
Yep.
And at that time, I believe that's when you were with Next Gen. I was
Yep.
representing Rebuku. I think Wes was representing Next Gen. I was a co-founder of Next Gen for those that aren't familiar, which helped you get on that kind of that outsource trail, start
Yep.
getting to work out the door.
For sure. I saw you guys set up over there with that last light, and I thought, I got to find out about this.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
when I heard the talk, I was like, okay, I'm sold.
And you still shoot on Last Light, right?
Yep, I sure do.
And that was probably 2015, something
And I
like
think it was 16 or 17.
that. Okay. So
Yeah.
you've been there for 7, 8 years for the
Yeah.
last. How does the Last Light handle for you? Do you find you're having to replace them often? What do you see with those?
I just replaced all of them this season just because we had left some in the car and they had gotten yellowed, and it obviously gets really hot in the summertime. So I think they yellowed quicker. I mean, they were still fine, but I didn't like the way it looked. So I just replaced them all this year, and we're taking much better care of them now that we know. We just didn't know, so we just hauled them around in the trunk and whatever. But now we take them in the house in the air condition, and we don't leave them in the car, to get all hot and humid. And they've been great.
Great. So do you do anything outside of sports? Do you do schools as well, or is sports your main?
I do a lot of schools. I'd say I'm probably 60-40 now with schools and sports.
Okay. And do you mind sharing? And if you don't want to, that's fine. But do you mind sharing about how many schools and sports leagues you do a season, a year?
Oh gosh. Schools, we have I guess we have 7 that we do the tux and drape photos for. Do you know
Okay.
what those are?
Yes, I do.
So a lot of places don't, a lot of states don't do those, but we
But
do.
go ahead and explain for the audience what that is.
Yeah. So the seniors, the upcoming seniors, I have one actually this year. He'll be a senior for 2025, that class of 2025. So they come into our studio and we have all the tux and drapes, tuxedo jackets, the white shirt and the bow tie, and we dress them. And then we sit them down. We have a background, hand painted background from Denny's, and we sit them down there and we take like, I don't know, 12 shots of them, all different angles, straight face, smiling, and just a little grin. If they have a class ring, we'll do the dad pose. I call this the dad pose with the ring
Yeah.
showing. And then for the girls, we do a little thing like this, and their rings showing at the front there. And then when 2020 happened, we started adding in whatever sport they played. So volleyball, they just hold the ball here and they have their drape on. It was cute, and they enjoyed it, and the people love the photos. So we do that for all. We do football, baseball, soccer, volleyball, basketball. And then for baseball, we'll give them a bat. So they're in their tux sitting there, and they got their bat there. Parents love those. So we've just kind of kept them. But we have about 2,500 seniors that we have this summer coming in the studio for June, July, and August. Of course, school starts really early here, so we don't have much in August, much time, but we hope to get all those kids done before school starts, but that never happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then for leagues in the spring, we did 8 leagues in 3 weeks. No, actually, it was about 9 or 10 because we had some during the week that we did in about a 3-week time span, which was crazy. We probably have 12 or 15 leagues, I'd say, in the spring.
Yeah, and I want to elaborate on the word leagues because I don't want people to think you're shooting one team when you speak of a league.
Oh, no.
A league can consist of multiple teams, and if you'll speak to that, to some of the size of your leagues, that would help us give us some context.
Yeah, so this weekend we have one. It's just their T-ball. We've already done their regular baseball and softball. That was probably, I don't know how many they had. I want to say around 25 or 30 teams for that one. And now their T-ball is this weekend. They've got about 16 or 17 teams, and they pack the kids on there. There can be quite a few because they can't ever find enough coaches for T-ball.
Yeah.
But we have leagues that are 1,200 kids. We just did one. We've got makeups for them tonight. And then actually we've got 2 or 3 1,200 kid leagues. Of course, they all don't show up and, whatever, but it's 1,200 on the roster, including the coaches. And then we do anything. I mean, we do smaller, like the 16 teams. So we do smaller, but we have a lot of big ones. 500-600 kids is nothing for us.
Yeah. And so when you're doing 10 or 12 leagues in 3 weeks, you're dealing with thousands upon thousands of kids.
Yeah, and we do multiple images. The first picture we take is the team photo. Then we do 2 individuals, and it's hard to keep up with all that. But Photo Day has been great for that part of it.
Yeah, so you are a Photo Day platform user.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, I have a feeling I'm going to come back with some other questions, but I want to ask you with Photo Day, do you use their facial recognition platform?
Absolutely. That's been a game changer.
Yeah, I find, and what I'd like the audience to understand is with our sports creator service, which Kimberly is a great customer of ours, where we create all the team, memory, mate, and individual graphics. Through the Photo Day platform, you can upload your images to the facial recognition app, the face capture app, or whatever it is.
Capture app, yep.
Yeah, and that will create your CSV file that's necessary to provide all the data.
Yeah, and it's so easy. It's so easy, and it's really it's flawless unless you have twins.
And it's getting better with twins.
Yeah.
It's getting better with twins.
I try to just capture their full body, especially if they're wearing different cleats. And then some of them will have like a freckle right here that the other one doesn't. I'm like, okay, I see that freckle. I know I can tell you apart now.
Yeah. So what that allows Kimberly to do is then she uploads them, she creates the CSV. She can send us the folder of images, the CSV, and her template if she wants. And we follow her workflow. And it's really, that's pretty much how it rolls, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's perfect. Yeah. So we have the team images. We get back to the studio from the shoot, download all the cards. We run everything through Lightroom. Mm-hmm. So we do like 1 star is the team photo, 2 stars are the individual photos, and then we use 3 stars for buddy photos.
Okay.
Then we sort by 1 star, so that's all of our team images. We export those into a folder called Teams. We upload that folder to Photo Day's capture. And it face finds them all. If we've got somebody that has 2 images in there, we know everybody should only have 1 image. If we have 2, then we know, we accidentally put, an individual photo. We marked it as a 1 star accidentally. So we'll go back, make that change, delete it off, and then we don't have to worry about that image. We got it. We move it to the correct spot. And then we just make sure everybody's found. We filter to make sure we didn't miss anybody that has a capture image that doesn't have an actual image. And then we just export that CSV, change a couple column headings, and we're good to go.
Yeah, it works really well. And I'm a big proponent for Photo Day. They're good friends of ours. We do a lot with them, and I really like that app. And it's made several of our clients' lives really much easier.
Yeah, it really is.
Not only in the organization of the CSV, but in the selling process and everything else. So shout out to Photo Day and all our friends over there.
That's right.
So you kind of remind me of the person that dove in deep in the beginning and figured out outsourcing right from the get-go. Would you say that's kind of how you?
No, because for years I did everything by hand. I mean, I would sit up half the night. I was a stay-at-home mom. We had 3 little boys. Our oldest 2 are 12 months apart, and then 5 years went by and we had our third. And I stayed at home with them and would do photos all day long, and I would manually, because there was no select subject back then. It was literally like, it would take me an hour to cut out 1 kid. It was horrible. And I did a really good job on that, I must say.
I am sure you did, but I am sure you were tired.
Oh, man, it was terrible. I mean, I would literally be up half the night cutting out kids.
Do you feel by outsourcing it's allowed you to do what you do best and help you grow your business?
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it without the outsourcing now. No way.
Kimberly, I find myself a lot of times being more of a therapist than I guess, just a person with a photography company. But there's a lot of people out there that just don't want to let go of the control. And funny, the other day I had Stella Crace on here, and she said, you are always still in control, even when
Yep.
you outsource. You're
Yep, for
choosing
sure.
your templates, you're choosing your images, you're proofing everything. You
Mhm.
still have your touch in it, but all the what I like to call ditch digging work, the grunt work that really ties a photographer down behind the camera,
Mhm.
those are the things, or behind the computer, I should say.
Yeah.
Those are the things that really you need to get rid of, whether that's accounting, whether that's graphics, extraction, retouching, whatever that may be. Um, those things you need to get off your plate. And I think one of the things that people struggle with, Kimberly, and you can speak to this if you struggled in the beginning or not, people don't know how to raise their prices once they go outsource. They don't really they don't do their cost of service analysis and cost of goods analysis properly. And really, outsourcing and printing products should be no money out of your pocket. It always should be embedded in your prints and products. And how did you figure that out? What did you just figure it out on your own? Did you talk with people? How did that come to play?
All the above, really. We figured it out on our own, but then we also, the conferences are where we learned how to do all that stuff. And looking at the industry standard and seeing what everybody else's prices were, and just kind of maybe coming up to where those other people were, staying around the same amount of money per item or whatever, or per package, and it all just worked out. Like I don't even care how much it costs to outsource, because I would never go back to not outsourcing, because it's just I don't want to sit in front of the computer all summer doing all that myself. So I
Yeah,
just make sure it's in my pricing and it's perfect.
yeah, and I've done a cost analysis on what it costs a professional photographer to be behind a computer, and it works out to be about $200 to $250 an hour that you lose
Yeah.
by those times, by that time behind the computer. Which, at that point, if you spend 8 hours editing, you might as well get a job at McDonald's because you're making a little more money at that point.
Yeah.
And I know there's this feeling inside, if I do all the work myself, I'm saving money. But that's really the wrong way to look at it, because all the work you're doing means that's all you can take on. You
Right.
have to become more of an entity, a machine, if you will, where you're like you've got your schedule, you can go out and shoot, you know when to get it uploaded, you know what to do, get it sent off to photo day. You've got a rhythm, you've got a workflow. And once you establish that workflow, that's when you can really start making money. And I cannot speak to that more than enough. I'm sure Stella and I are going to shout that from the rooftops down at Sync, but and it doesn't have to be Rebuku by any means. There's other great companies out there. I'm just telling you, you need to find a company that is good for you,
Yep.
that you can get that kind of work off of your plate. It's
Yep. You'll
really
never grow if you don't have a team of people working with you.
right. Softwares and AI and all that's wonderful, but they make you kind of efficient at what you're already doing, but you're still doing the work. So it doesn't really allow you to push it off and grow. Unless you're running a large staff, which I wanted to speak to that with you. During your busy spring and fall seasons, how is it just you? Is it how many people are you staffing when you're in your peak season?
I have one full time person, and then I have my husband who works a full time job, but he also works full time for me.
Okay.
He does all the things I hate to do, like the accounting stuff, and he does my team scheduling. He's got that down. He loves spreadsheets, so that's all right up his alley.
Well, that's my wife's thing too.
Yeah,
You got
so
out of
they
my hair.
yeah, I'm like, here you go. You figure it out. And he's like, you want to look? I'm like, nope, I don't want to look at it. Whatever you think's fine with me. He knows how the system works. And
Yeah.
he's the one that's always pushed me to outsource. And I didn't know how to do that until Sync Sports. And, he just he's a really big part of the business. Don't tell him I said that. I always tell him I could do it by myself.
Don't want his head to get too big.
Right. But yeah, so we have Kelsey. She's my full timer. She's 21, so she's young. But she came in. I did her senior drape photo. And we met that day. I'm like, you do action shots, right? And she kind of started like me, just doing action shots at her high school. And so I brought her on. She posed for me for a couple years here and there. And then I brought her on full time, like probably 2 years ago now, I guess. So she's with me full time. And then Joel, and then in the busy turn, when we have multiple leagues going on, we've got a lot of people. My son, like I said, is a senior, my youngest, and I got a ton of his friends. He goes to an all boys school, so a lot of those kids are athletic. I want athletes that know the sport, and they come in there and they were great. They love the kids, and the kids, of course, the little boys love working with
the kids. Yeah.
And it's been really great. I've had some really good younger teenagers that come and help, girls too, not just boys. And they've all been great. Like we've had some of my favorite crews, because you have turnaround a lot with that because kids are going off to college or whatever. And then you're like, man, now I got to find people again. But it's really been super simple because I actually work with this school, Jaden School also. I do their tux and drapes and their underclass.
Okay.
So I have a relationship with the school anyway, and I know a lot of the kids from coming in here anyway. So it's easy for me to find people, thank goodness.
Well, I think that's a great idea for the fact that you're using athletes as well.
Yeah.
In the high schools, because again, there's probably, like you said, there's already these kids that are getting their photos that are idolizing these athletes that they've seen or know. And so it probably creates a secondary excitement just from that.
Yeah, it does. They love it. The kids love it. The little kids love it. The big kids love it. It's a win-win.
Good. Back to pricing. How often do you raise your prices? Does it fluctuate, or do you have a standard 1-year incremental increase? How do you answer that?
I'm at a price point that I think is good. I've been probably the highest person within like my little group of people in the industry. I think my memory mates have been the highest of anybody's. And I've just kept them at that. I haven't even felt the need to raise it. Even though, the labs are a little more expensive and the shipping's gone up and all that stuff, I still feel pretty comfortable with where we're at. As a matter of fact, for our digital downloads this year, we went down a little bit because we started using the tiered pricing that Photo Day offers.
Okay.
And it's like you offer the first digital is like $35. And then if they get, 3 to 5 digitals, the price goes down for each, so you're selling more, but you're still getting a good amount of money per digital.
Yeah. And you don't have as much cost of service or goods in the digital.
Right. Yeah. Our profit is a whole lot more this year just because of the digitals. And we I wouldn't say we force the digitals, but we have that nice package where you can buy them all for, $100 or whatever it is. And that's been really good for profit wise.
So how long has your prices, do you think, remained the same?
I'd say 3 or 4 years, except for this year. Like I said, we went down a little bit on those digitals. But it's probably been 3 or 4 years since I've upped anything. Now I might take something out of a package, keep the price the same. Well, just like food, you order or you get the bag of Lay's potato chips and you get this much less each time because of the air. So I kind of do that. I'm like, well, I'll just take this magnet out and they won't notice.
You're like General Mills, man. You're just putting air in my bag.
Exactly. So that's I've done that. But I still feel pretty good about our pricing and what you get in all of the packages.
Good. Wow. So, 2008, you've been in the industry 16 years. You've seen a lot come and go, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What would you say, what 3 tips do you have for intermediate beginner sports photographers? I know a friend of ours just recently came up who's learning and kind of shadowed you. what would you, I guess, say to her or to the community we're going to broadcast this to? What are three key areas that they really need to focus on to grow their volume school and sports photography?
First thing I would say is get partners like Rebuku, Photo Day. Got to have partners that know what you want and that can make that happen for you, so you're not sitting behind the computer. You can go out and get more work while your stuff's getting processed in the background. Um, the second thing I would say is go to conferences, because that's the best place to learn anything hands-on stuff. You talk to different people, you make friends, you get create relationships, you get to know the vendors, and they can help you. And everybody, we all love to help everybody, so we're all open books. And as far as helping a new person get on board to where they want to be, probably the third thing, I would say no paper order forms. Definitely go with an online service, outsourced online service.
I think that's a good way to say it. I know paper order forms. There are people out there that still use them and think they're benefit, but for those that are really looking to have an ease of sale operation, there is a learning curve to the online platform.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, for sure.
It's important to it's important to get involved with one before you get overwhelmed with business, because you've got a lot you need to learn to
Right.
maximize your marketing, your sales, all of that, because it does everything. It just doesn't host your images. It's You've got marketing tools, newsletters, and face page, free page, all these concepts that you need to learn, and it'll help you become a better salesperson without having to sell.
Yeah, and start small. So just send one team. Send one team to Rebuku or to whoever they're going to use, and then send that one team, put it on photo day, and figure out how it goes. It's much easier to do with one team here and there until you get the hang of it, instead of trying to go all in with a 60, 70 team league. That's
Well, and thank you for saying that, because that's a great point I want to bring up. When we bring, you're an enterprise user, so you're using our offline system, so you're not going through the website. You directly FTP to our site. We build all your stuff out. We send you an invoice and a thing at the end of the month. And we settle up then. You don't have to worry about making one order here, one order there. And the reason we do that is because we understand your volume. We want to make sure it's quick and simple for you. But for people that are shooting volume, you need to understand we're not going to start out with a live job, and we're not going to start out with 60 or 70 teams.
right.
We'll start out with one or two teams. We'll do up to $75 in free service to get you set up in Sports Creator, because we want to make sure we understand you, you understand us, you understand our systems. We want you to feel comfortable with it, because I will tell you, prior to us doing that, I have watched it just turn into mass chaos.
Yeah.
And I've had clients crying because things are going wrong. And we learned from our standpoint, because it's not that it's complicated, but it's like we went from dating to getting married. And now that we're married, we got to have constant communication, and we've got to know what each other's doing, and we got to know your schedules, because it's what creates that trust, right?
Yeah.
And so thank you for bringing that point up. And I've got a banner running at the bottom of the screen right now. People out there that are interested and want to talk about volume for their fall sports setup, you can email mark@rebuku.com, and him and I will be happy to set time aside to work with you. But thank you for making that point. Even with your online systems, your labs, you can do test prints with your labs, can't you?
Yeah.
Setting up your color correction, all that, they'll do test prints for you. So I think that's very important, that people know that they go in slow, they go small. Do it in your off time, January, February, June, July, 1st of August. Those are great off months
Mm-hmm.
to,
Or another thing they could do is take an old team that's already processed and for sale or whatever, and send those JPEGs in and
yeah,
have you
you're right.
job from beginning to end, and then you can see it and you're not stressing out. You can make the little tweaks that you need to make, 100 times if you need to, and to get it exactly how you want it, to see how easy it is to get it to where you want it.
And I think for the audience, one thing I'd like for you at least, and I think you'll agree with this, but this is definitely my opinion. Volume business, T&I. I'm not talking portraits or any of that craziness. I'm talking sport, team and individual, volume sports and schools is not a highly creative business. It is a highly business effective business. You've got to be business minded.
Yeah.
You have to be. If you're coming in from a boutique side where you were a senior portrait photographer or children, newborn family, you're going to have to change your mindset.
Yeah, 100%.
100%, because you're not, with those genres, you're photographing and selling based on emotion. Through in-person sales, you're showing
Right.
the pictures, the videos, you're getting emotion, and it tends to increase your sales. Volume sports in schools is nothing like that. It is 100% rational. And you have to have an effective and efficient workflow. And one thing Jeff Gump taught me many years ago, actually, Jeff inspired me to get into volume sports. He said, just overstaff. Please,
Yep.
the first 3 or 4 jobs, overstaff it, because
He taught me that too.
Yeah, it's going to make you look professional. Second of all, it's going to keep you from looking like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you got to have enough people in place, whether it's volunteers or like what you're doing, overstaff.
Yeah. And then that way, when you do overstaff, like I've not even shot some of the jobs. I can walk around and help my posers one-on-one, and that makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
because you don't want to be in the weeds any longer. You want to be able to see the entire scope of your day and helping out and making sure things are moving accordingly throughout your setup.
Yeah. With me doing that, I found that things have run a whole lot smoother because everybody, I could just go around to each station. We've had as many as 4 stations going. I'll just go around to each one, talk to the photographer a little bit. Oh, don't do that. Do it this way. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then you look over and they're doing exactly what you just taught them to do. But if I had been sitting behind the camera, I wouldn't have seen that. And then I'd get back and the picture would be all wrong and I'd be mad. And, but this way it's so much easier when you have extra people. You can swap in and out, everybody can learn everything. The photographer can learn how to pose and the poser can learn how to shoot. I've had 14-year-olds doing the camera for me before, and they've done great. So cross training is a big thing.
Well, and that's the thing. Your camera's set. It's in a locked position. Really what they need to focus on is the expression and the focus.
Right. Then no blinks.
The no blinks. Yep. So have you felt like over the course of the last, I don't know, let's just take since the pandemic, do you feel you've had to adjust your business moving forward? Is it different for you since the pandemic? Have you had to make changes in your business?
Not really, because I started off doing composites. Once I went to Sync Sports and I saw you guys,
Yeah.
I started off doing compositing immediately from then on. And I don't really do a lot of natural photography. I have one school that they insist we do natural photos for all their sports, which is fine. It's just a lot more hot because we have to be outside on the football field in August shooting their football team photo. But I prefer the compositing. So I've been doing that, since 2017 anyway. And COVID came along and there was a guy in my area that didn't want to change his business model. And so I found him, I saw him on a team and volume group or something and knew that he lived by me. And he said he was wanting to get out of the business because he didn't want to do compositing. So I called him up, ended up buying out all his contracts. And, I still have all those contracts because, you had to be 6 feet apart or whatever. So I was already doing that. So it was no for me. So that was great. COVID was really good for me.
Set up well before the pandemic, for the pandemic.
Right, exactly. So COVID was great for me.
So last thing I want to ask, and then we'll, I appreciate your time today, but how do you feel about the state of the industry with your business, and you're seeing everything going on? Do you have a strong confidence in how things are moving? What's your feelings on the industry these days?
I'm a little concerned with the AI stuff.
Yeah.
However, some of it's okay, but I'm not loving it. It's too over the top, I think.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just that's just not a real photo. If you know what I mean? It's like it's just artificial. That
we're starting to get into these AI backgrounds and AI tools, and there are some really great tools out there.
Yeah, there are.
We have our own AI systems, but we like to, what we call ours is real intelligence, RI, and we want to make sure our AI is being used by our employees to benefit our clients.
Right.
So I think obviously AI is here to stay, and it's only going to get crazier. But I think as long as you have a buffer of human to human, you got to have it. People need connection.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm not really nervous that AI is going to take over all the sports photos. I mean, we put them on digital backgrounds, so it's kind of AI, but not, I guess. But
yeah, we are obviously.
It looks a lot better, having a human touch it than AI.
Well, and I think as a photographer, you want to still have a connection with a client.
Right.
So you don't want a rig that you just set up like the Matterport systems in real estate. Just this rig you set up, you set it, forget it, let it shoot the kids, you come back, pick it up, and it's done. There's still a connection there that provides. I would assume your parents, what they really want is just a good expression from their child.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's still required by human to human contact.
For sure. I mean, it's hard enough. Excuse me. It's hard enough getting a natural smile from a 5-year-old when they don't know you. Can you imagine them going up and just smiling at nothing? I mean, they're not going to.
No. I don't know how that's going to happen, but something tells me many years down the road, we're going to see how it happens.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, Kimberly, yeah, we made it good time. I appreciate this today. Is there anything else you want to leave with with our customers and our audience before we close out the day?
Just trust the process, and you've got to let go of some stuff, or you're never going to grow. I was one to think there's no way I could let somebody else do my graphics. I want to be in control of all of it. But, Stella and I and Cynthia, we all just we built a team on a graphic, and we just send that sample image into Rebuku, and we say, we want it to look exactly like this. And they send it back, and it looks exactly like I did it myself. So, I mean, you just have to trust it. And if you're unsure, just do the thing where you just send in a couple of teams, try out a couple of different sports, and make sure that it's gonna be a good fit for you. And I'm sure that it will be. You just have to trust.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I really appreciate you taking time. I know you're still in busy season, but thank you for taking time out today to spend with us here to talk to our.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Yep, no problem.
All right. Well, Kimberly, I'm going to get off here, and I hope you have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.